Station is already exactly where we need to go. Hi, guys. This was kind of a pop up. Well, we had planned this, but I think everybody just kind of gets kind of crazy with their own schedules and whatnot. We all got a lot going on. Today, I have Eric and Alyssa, and I'm going to kind of let Alyssa maybe lead the way just a little bit because we're here today to just kind of bring there's so much segregation and so much junk going in the disclosure community, and I just think it's important, or Alyssa thought it was important for us to get together. And so yeah, Alyssa, you want to talk a little bit about why why we're here? We were actually just talking a little bit backstage or whatever, and just understanding the difference of opinions of everybody and why people are coming from their own personal journey. Me and Eric kind of had an encounter, not a confrontational encounter, but an understanding of sorts. And then I've had encounters with people in the community that've gotten frustrated with me because I didn't know things, and I didn't take it personal because I understand that sometimes people have an understanding in such depth that they'll get frustrated with somebody like me that doesn't quite understand. So I think this is a beautiful thing that you've decided to do, Alyssa and Eric. So welcome. And this has nothing to do with addiction, but that's okay.
Well, it kind of does, because I mean, that's a part of my story too. My mother, in particular, had a severe car accident related to alcoholism, and I've spoken with her. She knows that I speak publicly about that. Not going to go right there right now, but no. I guess it's just basically a return to human decency that I would like to see in this community, and mutual respect, especially for the people that you disagree with, because it's very dangerous when you get into this echo chamber of only listening to people that you agree with and fit inside of your little clique. Like, that really starts to become a cult. And it's this feedback loop of confirmation bias and ostracization of other people who disagree with what you're thinking. And, I think Eric is a lot better at, being vocal about it. But the reason I use the word dangerous is in this particular community, in the disclosure community, some of these people are agents. And we need to be very aware of that. And we need to call out behavior that is unethical. It doesn't necessarily mean that that person is a fed, but maybe that person is more susceptible to mind control, and they're being, puppeted from some higher level. So the people that are not team players need to be put in their place. They should be given a chance to rectify their behavior, but they need to be called out, and they have no right to be pushing people with valuable information out of the community. That's right. What I've seen since I entered, and I kind of came into it at the beginning of the COVID lockdowns, led by my older brother, Anthony. It kind of felt like, I've described it to Penny Bradley, as it felt like I walked blindfolded into a maze, led by the hand of my brother, and I had to wake up fast enough to
thanks, Anthony.
There's something fucked up going on here. We need to... And that was at the 5D conferences in Vegas. That was my first experience of the disclosure community. And that has to do with part of the questions that I would like to go into for Eric in particular, but really for all of us, unless there's any specific comments about anything I've said so far.
I just had one, but it kind of slipped away. But go ahead. Maybe while you're talking, it'll come back, Eric.
I just wanted to add, one of the things that you brought up is the possibility that there's feds in the mix, which I wholeheartedly do believe. Another thing that people need to consider is that the feds are not the end-all say-all in this conversation. And what we're learning in the disclosure community is it has a lot more to do with the military-industrial complex and corporate interests. So I would like everybody to pay attention to the fact that we do not simply just have feds in the mix with factions. What I discussed at the Senate Intelligence Committee was that there are basically rogue factions by many definitions that are operating without oversight. And whether they're government officials or military-industrial complex contractors, I would suggest that everybody pay attention, because the disclosure community seems to be completely coordinated by these types of folks in such a wide variety. And that if we do not start to engage the conversation of who's who and who do they represent, because it is seemingly not the truth and not for we the people, because things would certainly be different. My first experience in the disclosure community publicly was also with the 5D events. And since, as both you ladies know, I am not one to pull punches, and I will name names when I do believe it is for the benefit of humanity. The producers of the 5D events, after I participated, a gentleman by the name of Saeed David Farman and a man who goes by the name of Eric the Healer Dademer, approached me after the event and demanded that I take my information and make it support a flat earth theory, or I will be removed from the 5D circuit.
Sorry, go ahead.
I told them to go fuck themselves.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
this is
Yeah. So
this is the community.
People,
So now when I see
those
5D
people
events
know?
going on,
Yeah.
I question the integrity of the
Yeah.
people that are on that venue, and I wonder what they acquiesced to maintain their ability to participate. These are fair positions for me to operate from regarding my experience with 5D events.
That's so interesting because I was just at a retreat. The My Nexus retreat, and there was an individual there that was totally pushing flat earth, and I felt like it was so deliberate because he was really pushing it on the youngins, the younger ones that were there. And
The impressionable ones?
right, but you know, mom and dad were there. They're very open minded. Like, no. It's not flat in this realm, anyways. You know what I mean? So,
Yeah,
I
flat earth theory is for fools and feds. It's
yeah,
pretty much that simple.
yeah.
I don't like to speak down to folks typically, but in reality, if you can't figure out the Earth isn't flat, you're foolish.
Well, and I also feel like it's a form of, because the way that these people respond to you when you do not agree with them is unreal. Like they get so angry and call you names. So it's some kind of, you know, mind control psyop bullshit, because for behavior like that, that's insane. You know, like, oh, you fucking idiot. Like, oh God, we're just talking about the shape of the earth. What the hell's wrong with you? Jeez, okay, it's flat. Fuck.
And
It really demonstrates how fragile the argument is, though, because when you go to character assassination and ad hominem, it means that you don't have any actual ground to stand on. But these people tend to be louder, or they have more pre-established popularity, so they get away with it. And then they recruit people behind the scenes.
And that's exactly, I want to name this person so bad, but I don't know what I'm getting myself into if
Do
I
it.
do that. But
Alyssa just read
it's
my
not
mind.
like a lot of people are going to see this shit anyways, but John D'Souza was pushing flat earth. It was John D'Souza, right? I mean, I don't know. I just felt
Get
like
out of here, a former Fed.
he's
pushing
okay,
propaganda?
right? He would freaking know
go
better.
figure. Yeah.
Yeah. So there were some people there that wants to have a debate with him for sure. So I have a question for you. Alyssa, and you too, Eric. I mean, you know, so question, whenever you see, when people are out there, I personally feel when somebody is going out of their way to bash another person, like, I just feel like it almost makes it like they discredit. It's one thing to kind of, if you feel like you have to defend yourself, right? But like when another person, and I'm just talking about things that I've been observing, goes into these long things about, you know, I mean, what are y'all's thoughts on that? I feel like, I don't know.
I call it leading the witness.
What's that mean?
It means that they don't really have any facts to simply present the facts. So what they have to do is, like, through things like character assassination and things like that, they have to kind of paint the person in a different light. And what that often does is just ignore the content. So right. I like to believe, even though I could be kind of a pit bull and aggressive, I know I have these capacities and I don't do much to hold back. But in reality, my intentions are to attack misinformation and disinformation, and not necessarily the person. But like you mentioned, if people are going to come back at me with personal attacks, then it's gloves off, game on. I mean, I can play these games and win. So it's like, if that's the way that they want to engage me, good luck, because right. I happen to operate from a powerful position, and that's called being right.
And again, I'm sure it's frustrating, right? We were talking a little bit earlier about how I've had some encounters with people in the community, where I asked a question because I don't quite understand something, and I kind of got a little bit of snapback, but I didn't take it personal because I understand that these people have a wealth of, and I'm sure that sometimes these questions are a little bit frustrating. And that encounter was actually very beautiful because now we're friends. We're friends, and I feel like we kind of grew, because of that. You know what I mean? So I don't even know where I was going with that. That wasn't even where I was going, but I'm sure it'll come back to me whenever at the
Well,
last
these are natural
minute.
things, and these are problems with the way that society is contemporarily. Alyssa, I'm sure you probably have some understanding through your own life, or even just being so close to proximity to Anthony, right? There's a lot to be said for learning how to respect someone through fighting them, and
Yeah.
because society has made fighting and violence and aggressiveness verboten, we have a wimpy society where
Yeah, we
we
do.
have we have shallow friendships that are superficial because nobody's ever actually truly tested their mettle against someone.
Hmm.
There is value to engaging someone aggressively.
Right. I
Society doesn't
remember.
want to be honest with that, but I mean, there's quite a few people in my neighborhood that I grew up with that I threw hands with. And it wasn't
Yeah.
until such time that occurred that you can get that level of respect. I mean, I know it sounds kind of barbaric, but there's tangible value to these types of exchanges, and whether it's physical, verbal, um, there's value to aggressive negotiations, to use a Star Wars
Yeah.
term.
Yeah. No, that's funny you say that. My ex used to be like, okay, fight me and we'll squash it.
Yeah.
I think back to what you said, Chastity, too. It's really important for people in this community or in general, if you want to call yourself a leader or a guru or a mentor of some kind, you need to be willing to engage with people that don't have the same level of knowledge that you have. Isn't that the point? Like, you don't want to be disrespectful and demeaning to those kinds of people. But that
Hmm.
goes back into the click idea of, oh, you don't know enough about this, so you're worthless. You know,
Hmm.
those are the most important people that you should be able to engage if you want to call yourself any sort of teacher or leader, mentor, whatever. But
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
aggression is necessary at times. I think it's just the appropriate application of it because I'm seeing a lot of unwarranted aggression,
Mm.
and then when it is appropriate, like in my view, the way that Eric behaves makes sense to me. Because if you watch his presentations or his interactions with people that are treating him respectfully, is totally pleasant
Right.
and funny and kind and knowledgeable. But if people are the juvenile behavior of using a name calling, like,
Mm.
are you 6 years old? Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
I just think it's absolutely ridiculous.
Right.
So,
Right.
and I guess to backtrack a little bit, Eric, how were you initially invited to 5D events? How did that come about?
That's a great question. I believe it was through my association with Penny Bradley, if I remember correctly, but I could be
Okay.
wrong. Um, I'm not exactly sure how the initial contact went. I believe Saeed David Farman had just reached out and asked if I would be interested. And to be completely frank, it was a total debacle. I mean, Saeed was trying to rip me off from day one monetarily.
Am I
A lot
supposed
of
to know who these people are? Who are these people? Are they like big and I just don't know who they are?
Saeed David Farman's the head producer of the 5D events, and lots of times when you see the poster boards put up, he's listed and presented as one of the speakers.
Okay.
But I mean, he was just straight up trying to hustle me from day one,
Mm.
playing me for a fool, like as if I'm some dumb Alaskan, has no idea that my history is in like of anything about me. Um, he was trying to charge me $100 to attend the speakers dinner as a speaker. I mean, I
What?
was the speaker, and he wanted to charge me $100 for a buffet in Las Vegas, and was literally telling me like, "You don't know because you're from Alaska, but let me tell you, that's a great deal." $100 for a buffet in Las Vegas is a great deal. And once again, I told him to F off. I told him to F off probably more times than any human being on the planet. I told him as a dumb Alaskan, I would be happy to bring a backpack full of peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, and I'll be fine. So then he magnanimously waived the $100 fee for me to attend the dinner of the presenters that I was presenting. Like it was completely ridiculous. So that's another thing that people need to pay attention to is what I call profiteering in the disclosure commodities community. There's a lot of people that are just simply here to make money. And they'll say anything, they'll pat anybody on the back, they will join any clique and agree with every single person they come across. And these are things that are so obvious. I mean, there's so many people in the disclosure commodities community that are 100% agreeable in every direction. That is one of the most disingenuous positions a human being can operate from. You cannot smile and agree with every single person you meet. That is a load of crap. It is also how CIA agents are trained to function in circles, is to make friends with every single person.
Yes.
So these are known tactics that have been presented by other operatives, and these are techniques that are being applied in these communities because they certainly can't go in and be disagreeable. That wouldn't function well for intel gathering or manipulation or controlling the narrative. So all of these people that are endeared by the community because everyone likes them and all they do is smile and wave and shake every single person's hand and agree with everyone, I would say those are our primary suspects of who's up to no good in the community.
So I feel like this is a good time for me to kind of chime in because I feel compelled because this is reminding me of, okay, I try not to go into any doctors with it. I can't even walk in those places without getting completely triggered just because everything that comes out of their mouth is a load of shit and you know it. And so this is making me think of, so I was like, okay, I took her to the doctor. I decided I would sit in with her and I had to get up and leave because literally the words coming out of her mouth, I'm like a human lie detector. Like I knew she was just full of shit. And I've worked in the medical field. I've worked in the medical field long enough to know that you can just be full of shit and they'll be like, okay, it's such a load of shit. Sorry, but I can't imagine, how that can be, Eric, for you and why you get so, because I had to get up and walk out of the damn office. I was pissed. And that lady's like, what's wrong? She knew what was wrong because I was eyeballing her the entire time after she said what she said because she knew she was lying and so did I. And so that's triggering for me, right? Because I know this woman is lying. And so I can understand and appreciate, Eric, that it does trigger you because of the things that you do know, because you do have a knowing. I've heard you talk about your knowings, I understand those. And so I'm sure it is infuriating and it is frustrating for you to watch this, especially if someone is coming after you. So I just thought, I just thought it was a good time for me to kind of chime in my perspective with how I understand how you're feeling. I'm not saying that, behaviors of this person, that person are right or wrong. I think we are all too sensitive. I think we're all way too fucking sensitive and we take things way too personal. Everybody has their own story and has a reason for the way that they act and behave the way that they act. And if you are taking it personal, that shit's on you. It's on you, So that's just kind of how I feel about that.
It seems more than coincidental to me that people have a tendency to take things really personally when they're backed into a corner and have no better reaction than to be taking offense. Because the reason most people take offense in reality is because they don't actually, they take offense instead of being able to move offensively. It's a defense mechanism for when people basically find out that they're been proven wrong, and then all of a sudden they're offended. You can't, and now they want to change the subject to personal things versus the facts of the matter. It's just a common thing that we witness today in conversation and dialogues is that people, it's basically losing an argument. Someone loses an argument, they run out of facts, they run out of life experience to support their position, so they take offense.
Yeah.
Back in the day, we would just laugh at someone when that occurred.
Yeah. Now
because you knew they lost. You know, I used to work on job sites with massive amounts of plumbers and construction workers in New York, and we used to rib each other purposefully. And the whole point was to get to someone to flip out, start throwing tools, and then everybody on the job site would just laugh at them.
Yeah. Right.
Gotcha. You got so agitated you lost. Like that's all there is to it. Like, and people no longer have the backbone to function in those circumstances. Um, it's just life contemporarily.
Well, I think people that don't hold punches, we need that. You know what I mean? This world needs that. Everybody has a piece
Big
of the
time.
pie. Everybody's personality is exactly what this world needs. There's a reason why we all are the way that we can't all just be, we gotta.
Society's trying to homogenize us all down to the level of pacifism and non-aggression because it benefits the oppressive side of the conversation. And in reality, we need more aggression. We need more people that are willing to fight to champion the
Yeah.
truth, even when it's challenging. Not everything is all love and light. Like a lot of the cliques are. It's love and light, and I can't communicate with you because
It's actually
you are
not as much
rough.
love and light.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, because these people are wholly dysfunctional for the fight to champion the truth. Because if you can only function in the light, if you can't handle negativity and the darkness, you cannot go to the places that the warriors need to go and function in. That's reality.
Yeah.
The bad things are happening in the dark. They're happening behind closed doors. And if you can only sit there and smile in the sunlight, you're not ready for the front lines of this battle.
Yeah. What do you think, Alyssa?
Definitely. This is important now to talk about some of my experiences with 5D events.
Okay.
I started, let's see, the first one that I went to would have been October 2020. I didn't really actually go to much of that event. I met Anthony and James Rink and some of our mutual friends kind of at the tail end of the event because our friends were getting married, and so we went to their wedding. That was great. Something strange happened at the night after their wedding. We went out in Vegas. We went to this place called, what the heck is it called? We got frozen daiquiris there. It's like this New Orleans themed bar that was in the mall. But we ran into this guy who, looking back on it now, feels like a plant of some sort. Because we were having a great time, and he ended up joining along with our party, coming back to the hotel with us and hanging out. And he started taking an interest in my friends who had just gotten married, their son. They had about 11 or 12-year-old son already, and were getting married years after the beginning of their relationship. But this guy started talking about their son, how good he looked and how cool his style was and stuff like that. And it just started making me really uncomfortable. Like, why are you talking about the way this kid looks so much and flattering him? And then eventually he started saying something about a modeling opportunity in Florida and how this kid should come to Florida with him sometime and become a model.
Weird.
Yeah, I was like, this is like some trafficking stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying nothing happened. He's safe. He's with his parents. They live in California. But it was really weird. I was like, okay, was this guy already planted there to meet us? So that was one thing. And then the next year, March 2021, I went to another one of the 5D events, and I actually stayed with James Rink. We shared a room. We were friends. It was not more than that. There was some mutual attraction at different times in the relationship, but it never became anything more than that. But we did share a room at this event. And it has now come to my attention that another woman in this community named Amaria, she publicly posted on this on my Facebook, so I feel it's okay to say, given some food at 5D events that was poisoned with arsenic. It made her entire family sick. She shared a meal between her and her sons, I think 2 or 3 sons, and all of them became violently ill.
Holy shit.
I don't know exactly who put this in the food. I don't even want to say who gave her the food, because I think the person that gave her the food is also innocent.
Oh.
We would need to figure out who gave the food initially. I think if you pass something off, it creates a degree of separation from the culprit to obfuscate what's going on, if that makes sense. So if you hand it off, then you don't know where it was initially tampered with. So that would be March 2021. That's also when my email started getting hacked. So there was that poisoned food at this same event. My email started getting hacked, which later turned into business sabotage and gang stalking things while I lived in Arizona.
Wow.
And so then we get to October 2022, another 5D event. Anthony was blatantly targeted at this event. Right before he was supposed to present, James Rink ran up with Eric the healer.
And former DARPA employee.
Yeah. They gave him this chocolate. It was supposed to be like a mushroom chocolate. And that may very well have been all that was in it. I can't say. There was also another woman around who was a professional. She had these professionally packaged mushroom chocolates. Whatever was given to Anthony did not come from a package. It came from a Tupperware. So it was different, but it's another one of those things of like, let's confuse what's going on here by putting this other person with a legitimate product in the mix. So that was given to Anthony. James literally came up and said, Anthony, come out here. And Anthony's trying to get ready to do his presentation. And then James gave that to Anthony. And, it's on Anthony. That was stupid of him to eat it. Like, why the fuck did you do that? But also, why did you come up and try to encourage him to have that right before his presentation?
Wow. That's so wild.
Yeah. And James, I'm sure you're going to listen to this at some point. Like, part of my problem with this too is that he has been refusing to have a real conversation with me about this, and that becomes suspicious because we were friends, and that was upsetting. Like, what's going on here? And he said, like, I didn't mean anything bad by it, but then there were other things later on that were unethical. Like James's meditation cube, I ordered one of those from him, and it had phallic symbols hidden inside of it.
What's that?
A dick.
Oh, you see, Eric?
As soon as you said that, I knew. I was like, here we go. This is exactly what she was talking about. Yep. And this is not something you want going over your head.
Yeah, that's why that went over. That's disgusting, and I find that so. Go ahead and continue. Go ahead.
Well,
I really didn't know what it was.
This is the nuance and the shades of gray, and the fact that I actually really do have a lot of compassion for people, and this was upsetting to me because James and I still thought was my friend. And so I gave him about a dozen chances to have a real conversation with me about this, because especially in the SSP community, targeted individuals, MK Ultra survivors, people act weird at times, especially if they've had any kind of abuse or cult influence or something like that. Something dark in their life may have led them to behave in a way that reflects that. And to me, hiding a phallic symbol inside of a device that is intended to, you're supposed to psychically connect with this thing while you're meditating, yet you're hiding things like that inside of it.
Wow.
And refusing to give an explanation. I mean, he basically tried to tell me that like it was some inadvertent effect of the manufacturing process. And like, that is impossible. This is intentional. I have photos of them. They're very clearly hand drawn. They are the same symbol, but slightly dissimilar. So it looks like they were drawn like with a little needle or something, or a stick before the material was fully set.
Wow.
I'm not stupid. I mean, you can't trick me into believing that, oh, this shit just like fell in a specific way and drew a dick. Like, that doesn't make any sense at all.
Right. Bullshit.
And on top of that, you know, he's charging hundreds of dollars for these things. And he also said, even though I didn't ask for a refund, he said that I couldn't have a refund because the return policy had lapsed. The return policy is 30 days, and it had been less than a week. And so he just had this immediate, like, shut this down, don't talk about this, you can't have a refund. So something about that was really off. That in combination with him running up and giving that mushroom chocolate to Anthony right before Anthony's presentation, which turned into a huge debacle. Anthony had to go to the hospital. Anthony was extremely disoriented. I'm sorry if Anthony's upset with me for saying this, but I feel like he's been kind of not able to speak about it. Now, I've been having problems with that too. Like sometimes I feel like I'm literally choking when I want to say something that is important. But Anthony had to go to the hospital. They loaded him into an ambulance. I swear to God, 6 black helicopters flew over while this was happening.
I believe it.
And my instinct was to film them. And the only reason that I didn't is because we were with someone, this guy named Dan McBolin, who there's footage and video of Dan McBolin with James Rink and Preston Nichols from back in the day. I don't remember exactly when that was, but Dan told me, no, don't film the helicopters. And so I didn't, and which felt like a handling kind of behavior because I should have just done it. Yeah, like, but I was scared. I was legit. There were like 6 or 7 police officers there, helicopters flying over. I'm like, someone's gonna shoot my brother because he's disoriented. And like my Anthony has always been so gentle and respectful with me, unless we're like sparring or something. But he's not violent. He loves me. But he called me a bitch. He was like trying to go with me. It was totally out of character. Oh, wow. I've never seen him behave like that before and never since. Wow. So I was legitimately afraid. I did flip the helicopters off. I didn't film them. It would have been way more valuable to film them. I did get photos.
Flip them off.
I got photos of all of the police vehicles. So I still have those. I went around and took photos of all the vehicles with their little numbers, the ID numbers on the cars. So that was weird as hell.
So I'm pretty sure the same thing literally just happened to Tyler Koala. Did it not? Like someone gave him a gummy and I don't know the details, but he had made a post that he was at an event. He was at one of these events. I don't know which one it was. And someone gave him a gummy and then he was hospitalized. Literally the same thing you just said. I don't know the details, but I mean, I know I saw that and I just think it's important that I say that because of what you're talking about right now, the literal exact same fucking thing.
That's part of why I knew I needed to say something, because I've heard whispers of other kinds of things, not Tyler in particular. But if this has happened to anyone else, I fully invite you, like if you want to reach out to me or someone else, because we need to start putting this pattern together, figuring out who the fuck is doing this to people, because it's destroying our community and it's illegal. Like these are actual literal crimes happening in 3D. So I'm sorry, it's a little more important to be talking about that than what fucking ET you're communicating with. Like, not that isn't important too, but like
we have to prioritize. We simply have to prioritize.
Hierarchy.
All these things are conversational, but there's certain things that are impending danger. And like you said, with the criminal activities of people drugging each other, and or what you brought up with James Rink, which I think is very important. This is what I would call under the term of profiteering. So there are people that are in the disclosure commodities community that are simply here to profiteer, and they will do whatever it takes, shake any hand, agree with anybody, sign any contract, as long as it doesn't affect their revenue stream. So apparently these cubes, which I'm not familiar with, cost hundreds of dollars. Wow. And I doubt they cost that much to manufacture. So there's probably a serious markup on a hunk of plastic that's probably being made in China. And, this is for profit. So there's a lot of people that are in the community for profit. James Rink and I actually have a depth of experience together, and I do not think as highly of him as the community does, because I found him to be utterly full of garbage, naive, and very easily manipulated. He was literally one of the first three people that I reached out into the community. I was an outsider looking for a way to engage the world with my information. James Rink, Penny Bradley, and Ilyana Kopolnik were the first three people I sent emails to, that I reached out to and said, I have information to share with the community about South Pole Station. Would you be willing to discuss it? Penny and Ilyana wrote back to me through emails. We had conversations about the potential of me going on air publicly. I had the same conversations with them as I did with James. The discrepancy with James was the first time we were going to have a person-to-person Zoom chat to continue a dialogue about my intentions. He wanted to throw me on air immediately. I had not provided any proof to him. I was simply conversational, and it blew my mind that this guy was ready to throw me on air. I had proved nothing to him at that point. So that was a major red flag for me, because I was like, this guy will put anybody on. He has no idea who I am. So, and then I proceeded to observe that he just continually puts on more and more people, that he has no way to vet them. He just puts people on air. And then when I went to the 5D event, I was sitting up on the dais next to Tony Rodriguez, and some dudes came in with camera equipment and recording equipment, and just through my own intuitive skills and life experience, I literally took pen and paper and I wrote a note and I slid it over to Tony, because we were on hot mics, and I just simply wrote, those two guys are feds. And Tony looked at the people that I was talking about, and he agreed with me. And lo and behold, those two people interviewed with James Rink at that event, claiming that they were some sort of SSP personnel. And all. No, different guy.
Oh,
no,
okay.
different
Okay.
characters. These two guys were
there too. Sorry.
Yeah, he's a peculiar character. But anyhow, these two folks were from Canada, and long story short, they did this expose proving that James Rink is a knucklehead and can't vet anybody, because they went there with the intentions to lie, to pretend that they were SSP veterans. James presented them to the world in such regard, because he has no idea what he's doing. And then a few weeks after James's information went to market, they did this expose where they were like, we totally lied, to prove that James doesn't know what he's talking about. And you know what? They're right. That's the sad fact of the matter, is James will put anybody on air, and it's horrible for the community of truth when we have these people that are just so willing to profit off of putting any information out versus the truth.
I know who you're talking about. I can't remember that guy's name.
There's two dudes from Canada that came up with the intent to trick James, and it worked.
So I have a question. So, I mean, surely these individuals, because I know he's not the only one, but I mean, they start out with good intentions. I mean, do y'all think it's a form of mind control, or is it a form of greed? Is it a combination of both? Like, what's going on here, right? I mean, I'm just curious. I don't, because I'd like to think that everybody has great intentions when they get started, but then you also see people start to rise and they kind of lose their heart being, operating in their heart, being heart-centered, and kind of getting into their ego or whatever, right? So my question is, with this certain individual, I mean, he seemed very, I never really followed his content. I mean, he played a part in the beginning of my waking just a little bit, but I don't know. I just never really followed too much of him. But he always seemed like he had good intentions, but the more that, the time went on, it seemed like it just started to shift, and he kind of started to get a little bit nasty, and I just wonder, is that like, I mean, is it the greed? Is it the ego? Is it mind control? Is it all of the things? Like, is it because he's in the programs that, we're behaving in this manner? Just curious what y'all might think.
I definitely think it's a combination of all of them. If we're talking about James in particular, I'm feeling a little bit of sadness right now because in a way it feels like I'm betraying a friend, but it's on a higher level than that. It's of ethical concern in the community, so that's where I'm coming from.
Yeah, yeah,
I think that there was definitely more of a genuine, helpful intention in the beginning, and somehow that became corrupted along the way.
that's yeah.
That's because I've had what really feels like very genuine moments with him, and
Yeah.
seeing who he really is, and there is something very almost childlike about him, or an aspect of him. So I think in his case, it might be more naivety and uh, vulnerability
Yeah.
to being manipulated
Yeah.
and mind controlled. It looks like we lost Eric.
We did lose Eric. I'll keep peeking down here to see if he's popping back in, but I haven't seen him quite yet. So
That's interesting. I'm sure he'll be back as soon as he can.
maybe something cut out. I mean, and no, I don't think it was. There he is. There you are. Where'd you go, buddy?
Welcome back.
Sorry about that. Okay, so let me explain because that may happen again. I'm currently in Costa Rica and
Yeah,
we're having like monsoons.
Oh,
So
wow.
it's impacting the power. So if I get bounced out, I'll just jump right back in as fast as possible.
That's cool. Yeah, no, and I don't think we were attacking anyone. I was genuinely curious. I don't have any I have compassion for everyone. Like literally, I mean, people have really like been kind of shitty, and I'm just like, man, whatever. Like I just have an understanding. So I'm not attacking him. I'm just curious, right? Because I have been observing this community for a little while now, and I've just kind of seen the different behaviors and the shifts in people, and I'm just kind of curious, your opinion. That's all.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean, oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I wanted to try to figure out who that. I can't for the life of me remember that guy's name right now, but just for the sake of giving people information, because I know exactly what you're talking about when those two guys came to the event to. Yeah, I'll figure that out and put it in the
Absolutely.
comments
And
or
then
something. But
and then in the grand scheme of things, in regards to integrity, I when I went to the Journey to Truth event in Grafton, Illinois, when they had their first go at it, it was
Yeah.
great.
Yeah.
Tyler and Aaron were fantastic people. I said to them at one point, there was an empty table there. I didn't pay to like be a what do you call it, a vendor or anything like that. But I asked them. I said, hey, listen. I said, I happened to bring with me all of my documentation about what's going on in the South Pole, and I just simply see a bunch of people that are interested in this stuff. Would it be all right if I laid out my documentation, the maps, and everything on the table for people to take a look at? And they said yes. So I laid everything out, and I had wonderful conversations with people. Laura Eisenhower came by. I explained everything that was going on. She was grateful. James Rink, who had been avoiding me like the plague for years at that point, because he had gotten mad initially when I wouldn't go on air with him, because I said it was too soon and this wasn't, what I was ready to do at the time. So he wound up then getting mad at me and accusing me of stealing his information and going
Oh,
public,
oh
which I
my.
was like, I'm
Oh.
I'm sorry, James. When did you go to the South Pole for me to steal your information? It was really ridiculous. So he and I had a lot of bones to pick with each other through the years. But at Journey to Truth, I decided to extend the olive branch, so to say. I said, James, I said, here's all the information. You keep telling me that you want to do an interview, even though I feel like you're blowing me off. I said, here's all the information. I said, why don't you record it, ask me some questions, and then in the future, when we do the interview that you keep claiming you're going to do with me, this will be great. So he recorded all of that stuff, asked me a couple of benign questions, and the event ended, and I followed up with him. Hey, Matthew, yes, it was great to see you there too.
Matthew's cool.
Matthew Monian's awesome.
Love Matthew.
So is
What up?
Lenora, so I don't want to leave her out. But
Love her. Yes.
so James recorded all of this stuff and told me, he was willing to bury the hatchet and we'll do the interview and thanks for showing the facts. Well, I followed up with him just because I don't like loose ends. And what I found out was that James was full of crap. He wasn't interested in doing anything. So at that point, I started to challenge him on stepping up to his own words. I said, James, you said you were going to do this. And then he got all aggressive and ugly with, I'm busy with this and that. And I just straight up was like, James, you're busy pumping crap to an audience when you have legitimate facts that I've presented to you, and your decisions are indicative of the man that you are. So I'm done with James Rink having any value in the disclosure community because I hate to say it, he's been proven to not be intelligent enough for the conversation and or lacking integrity. So those two things are very problematic when it comes to getting truth to humanity. And I'm just going to call it how I see it.
Yeah.
He is not beneficial.
I appreciate that about you. I just want to say real quick, I apologize that I'm always laughing. I feel like it's my way of kind of balancing it all out. So I'm not laughing. Yeah, I'm not laughing at you or anybody. I'm just like, hey, let's laugh our way to unite. Let's laugh our way all the way to unity. Okay.
Yeah, it's in a way, to me, it's actually apropos because it's kind of like wildly hilarious that we have to have these conversations to point out what should be obvious to everybody in these circles. It is laughable.
Yeah.
No one seems to be paying attention to the fact that there's frauds, that there's profiteers, that there's feds, that there's military-industrial complex people. Like, how can anybody look at this community and believe everything everyone's saying?
Yeah.
That is laughable.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do the same thing. I was actually worried that I would start cracking up and not be able to stop. And so far that hasn't happened. So
yeah, you gotta laugh about it. I appreciate everybody's perspective and energy. I don't take anything personal. Yeah, you're hard around the edges, Eric, but I appreciate it. I really respect. I love it. You know what I mean? You've never done anything disrespectful to me. You've always been. I mean, I think you're a bright light. I was actually looking for some pictures to do. The last minute thumbnail. And I found a great one, but I like couldn't get it on there, So anyways, I don't know why I said all that. I just appreciate you. I appreciate you too, Alyssa. Everybody has a piece of the puzzle. And when we can quit taking shit so personally, we can unite and kind of band together. Right. And if you're taking things personally, why are you doing that?
Right. It makes me feel like, I wholeheartedly feel like in the truth disclosure community, I feel like I'm at the front lines, right? And this is a battle for the truth, okay? Yeah. And now when we think about war and stuff like that, we have the contemporary army, right? They go to boot camp, and here's what I'm hearing is that now you can go to boot camp in the army, and if you're feeling too stressed and too taxed, they now give you cards that you can hold up, like almost like soccer cards, like a yellow card and a red card, and you can tell the drill instructor that I'm having a hard. I need to take 5 minutes.
Wait, what? This a new thing?
This is the state of our military now.
Do they get a participation trophy after that as well?
Yeah, pretty much. So now these folks get to and they can combine cards and be like, drill instructor, what you said really bothered me, so I need to take an extra 15-minute break away from, the company complement. So this is what we're rearing in our actual military now. So obviously society is way more lenient. So the way I look at it is like, we now have troops that are going to get to the front lines and wish that they had the little "I'm too taxed right now" card. And it's unrealistic. So to me, it's similar to the front lines of the truth community, is that I'm sorry that people don't have cards to pull when they engage me. Because that's not how life really works. I'm not going to give someone a break when I feel like their actions are in opposition to humanity having the veil lifted and more truth disclosed. If they are working against my activities to bring that forth, I simply consider them the enemy of the truth and the people, and I will engage them thusly. I am so cool with that. And if people have a problem with it, they're probably on the wrong side of the battlefield from me. And that's cool too.
Yeah. Yeah. What do you think about that, Alyssa?
Yeah, I mean, it really does take all kinds. And like Heidi pointed this out too. That's a great interview, by the way, the Heidi Pop interview, and I got to repost that too. But there are different personality types. We have to remember that you're not going to like everyone. You're gonna, it's going to be abrasive with some people. But it's much better if you don't like someone, just walk away.
Yeah.
Like,
Not. Yeah.
find the people that you resonate with. You don't need to create some kind of problem in their life, slander them behind the scenes, prevent them from meeting people that they need to connect with. Otherwise, if you are behaving that way, you do become suspicious. And in this community, we have to revisit that possibility that you are being incentivized in some way,
Yeah. I don't know if I said this earlier. I think I may have, but like I had mentioned earlier, or if I did or not, I've had encounters, a couple of encounters that were like, I wouldn't say confrontational, but a little bit uncomfortable. And once we got past that, we ended up being, really close. I think I did say that, but it ended up bringing us together. It ended up having an understanding and a respect from just different perspectives. I mean, that's what it's all about, We've all lived such different lives, and we are all entitled to the way that we freaking feel. And we just have to stop taking shit so damn personal. That's it. That's it. So pretty simple. Or you would think, right?
In that vein too, I'm obviously different. I'm a little more gentle, and I do have a soft spot for James. So I wouldn't say that he's not intelligent. I've seen his intelligence. But something got corrupted along the way. There was a change because in the beginning, it felt like actually me, James, and Anthony were like really having a good time together. It's like that returning to soul family kind of feeling. There was an authentic resonance there. And it almost feels like somebody above him put him up to it. I can't say for certain that that's what happened, but that's why I so desperately wanted him to just have a real conversation with me about it. It's like, are you in some kind of danger? Are you being like threatened, or like, I don't know. It's just, there was a very rapid shift in the behavior, and it's obviously gotten to this point where I feel like I have to speak publicly about it because of my moral standards.
Right.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that at all. I wholeheartedly believe that somebody has started to manipulate him, at least one faction, if not multiple factions. But doubling down on what I said earlier, he doesn't have the aptitude to avoid it. I have all kinds of folks come at me and try to ego stroke me and ride my coattails, so to say. But then I realize that their next step is then to try to redirect my energies by saying, "Oh, I agree with everything that you're saying. I support what you're doing." And then there's always the follow-up. But did you know that this is what's really going on, and your information supports what I'm saying? And then they try to pull me in their direction. And it's a commandeering of stuff that it takes an aptitude to observe and avoid. It's like entering a minefield and not stepping on the mines. You have to have a skill set, because the disclosure commodity community is a minefield of people trying to disrupt and blow up your advancing energy. So he has succumbed to stepping on mines through an inability to avoid them.
And how long have you been doing this in this community, Eric? How long have you been at this?
I'm guessing, heck, oh my God. I think maybe I started publicly, maybe 2018-ish.
Okay.
It was
So,
pre-COVID. I'm trying to remember when that first 5D event was, because it was that was maybe a year after I had come out publicly on the internet and was trying to, I guess.
And you've been to quite a few of these events, so you've had quite a bit of experience. So you have quite a bit of understanding. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. I've attended multiple events, even just as a participant, to get a pulse on the community, so to say. And my observations, I do not bring a lot of good news to the community, and I appreciate that people don't typically want to hear what I have to say. But this stuff, it's a fucking circus. It's a spectacle. It's a show, and it is a whole bunch of boneheads on microphones that
No.
have no evidence for anything they're saying, and this is not what humanity deserves. We deserve what I simply call actionable intelligence. What a novel concept, right? Actionable intelligence means information that you can do something with, right? If we had generals on the battlefield just reacting to all kinds of misinformation and disinformation, there would just be dead troops everywhere. They need real, verifiable, actionable intelligence, and we, the people, in the battle for truth, need to prioritize that as well. Because what we are seeing is the death of truth. Because there's no actionable intelligence, there's just all kinds of unsubstantiated speculation being slung from every microphone at every one of these events. And unfortunately, the general audience is eating it up and spending thousands and thousands of dollars every year to go to these spectacles and these circuses that have nothing to do with the truth anymore.
Yeah. I haven't really been to these big old events, right? Like I went to the Journey to Truth. I love it. I went to like Margie K's and then the Disclosure Now. And I loved every single one of them. I really I appreciate a little bit more of the more intimate. I've heard about these events that are like thousands of people. First of all, that's a lot of people. Which
Yeah.
I don't know about getting in the mix of all that. That's a lot of people, a lot of energy. I'm sure there's plants all around there. So yeah, I haven't been to
I
two.
went I went to Contact in the Desert this past summer, and
Okay.
from what I was hearing was
Uh-huh.
that they had 4,000 people attend.
Oh.
And when you're looking at ticket prices, when it gets up to, the VIP dinner and the rock and roll concert and all of the things that you can add on, you very rapidly get in the range of about $1,000 a head.
Oh,
So
okay. Well,
so times 4,000 people, and then that's just who attended. Now you have live streams. Do they discuss the numbers publicly with anyone? Did they get 10,000 live streams? 50,000 live streams? At what price? These are massive money-making machines.
wow. Yeah.
People don't want to consider, like, everybody's look like there's big picture stuff going on here, ladies. Like, so everybody thinks that the CIA and these government organizations get a check cut to them by Congress for their operating expenses every single year. And as if they deposit that money in the bank and then just start to withdraw over the course of the year. Well, that's not actually true.
Right.
They invest their money and make more money.
Yeah. That's so crazy.
So now they can fund their own activities, and they don't have oversight for money that's self-generated.
Right.
So I would suggest to folks that these events that everybody's paying copious amounts of money to are in fact the front companies that are highly lucrative, because it's a win-win situation. They get to control the narrative. They get to throw a net out there to communicate with the people that they want to engage, to manipulate, and they get to make lots of money in the process that they don't have to account for, thus making it hard to have oversight into these activities.
Oh, that resonates. Yeah.
This is what's going on, and people
Yeah.
are just naive. It
Yeah.
is a circus.
Okay.
And this is how these things function, because now, I, like, as an example, when I went to Contact in the Desert, I spoke with Captain Ron, the man that owns Contact in the Desert, and his head producer, to my face. They were pleasant. They were amicable. I shared my information and my experiences, which is verifiable, actionable intelligence. They told me that they would contact me. I gave them my information. They said that they would love to have me on next year. How much you want to bet they don't reach back out to me?
Well,
because they're not interested in. They technically, according to what they said, they should have already reached out to me. So we've already crossed that line.
Yeah.
But that's the sad facts of the matter. Is here comes the veiled pleasantries, the constant agreeability in every direction. But what's the least common denominator is that these events will be very much profiteering activities and controlling the narrative by pumping misinformation and disinformation to the masses when actionable intelligence is completely ignored.
Wow. That's, I never even, that resonates on such a deep level. You know what else that reminds me of too, Eric? I know this is kind of like, but it does kind of, it is kind of go hand in hand, just because when I was younger, I used to go to these massive raves. I mean, the drugs all in there, ecstasy. I mean, and the amount of X that I could smuggle through there was unbelievable. And there was always cops and services and black cars. But for whatever reason, I was always able to get right on in with a bunch of drugs on me. Why is that? Because I come to find out later that it is these agencies that are putting these motherfuckers on.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that resonates.
So
I'm so glad you said that. Wow.
I've said before that nobody will argue, right? If I make the statement, the mass media is wholly corrupted, no one argues that. But if I then say the internet is part of the mass media, these conventions are part of the mass media, everybody starts getting pissed off. They don't want to believe that that's also corruptible, right? So let's just look at it simply, right? If we know that previously the CIA, the FBI, the DIA, the NSA has invested heartily into the mass media as we recall it, news channels and things like that, right? If they can afford to do that, okay, they have deep pockets. Now, if the focus of the people leaves what we previously considered the mass media and goes in a new direction, would they be less likely to follow where the attention of the people are and invest in that also? Isn't it actually cheaper for them to step up a few YouTube channels and podcasters and make it look like it's not them? Would it be impossible to consider that of all of these factions that exist and have billions upon billions of dollars at their disposal, could they afford to put on an event like Contact in the Desert? Could they afford to put on an event like the one you attended in Florida? Wouldn't it actually make more sense that they would be obliged for their mission to not only invest in some of them, but to fund all of them? That would be controlling the narrative across the board. Ooh. That would be standard operating procedures of factions like COINTELPRO that were outed in the 1970s in the Senate Church subcommittee hearings, where the FBI was found to be operating under the title of COINTELPRO, and their mission was to invade every side of every argument. So this would be no different. It would be obligatory on their part to fund every event, to control every conversation. And the fact of the matter was that when the verdict was read in 1975, I believe, COINTEL was told that they are no longer allowed to operate under the title of COINTELPRO. No one ever shut them down. They just said, you have to change your name.
Wow.
So I believe that what we the people are witnessing is simply a modern day version of media control through the contemporary mass media. They have to. Their missions require them to do the things I'm suggesting.
It completely makes sense. It really does. And I want to speak about a couple more things about 5D events. I did speak at the Full Disclosure Now conference in Florida in July. Mm-hmm. That was a positive experience for me. I'm not saying that there couldn't be some corruption. The host, Brian, I've had only pleasant interactions with him. He gave me a sword for my birthday. He paid his speakers versus Saeed was charging speakers.
Yeah.
After this event where Anthony was targeted in October 2022, Saeed invited me to MC his event, the next one in March 2023. I think this was after I had moved to Florida. And I don't even know why I was entertaining it momentarily at first. I think just because I had made some friends there and wanted to go back, but I didn't feel ready to be a speaker yet. But But he wanted me to charge, so to be the MC, I obviously had to promote his event. He wanted me to charge people $1,000 to vend, to have a table at his event and vend. They $1,000 a table, which just seemed ridiculous to me. He wanted me to change my name. He's like, maybe people are targeting you because you're Anthony's little sister, and you should change your name. And everything about it just felt really, really weird. And so I was like, dude, I'm not doing this. I'm not interested in ever going to another 5D event again.
Wow, weird. That is weird.
So my experience at Full Disclosure now was completely different than that. There has been some weirdness following the event. I don't know. I don't know why Johnny Enoch took such a strong stance against you, but I'm also not saying that I have a problem with him necessarily, because I've been communicating with him more after that. But that's when I really came on board in defense of you, because I'm like, why is there even an Eric Hecker, Brad Olson feud when you guys have completely different things to offer? There isn't a choice that needs to be made here. So someone is manufacturing a competition.
I manufactured the competition, and I would disagree with your statement.
Okay, well, that's fair.
Brad is a problem in the community because he has attempted to commandeer the topic of Antarctica when he is simply a tourist that visited there for 6 days. And he is simply pushing antiquated information that's been available by the Adventures Unlimited Press publishing company since the 1980s. There's absolutely nothing that Brad Olson has ever researched about Antarctica that wasn't written for decades before it came out of his mouth. He's a plagiarist. And what he's trying to do is control the conversation about what's going on in Antarctica by continually taking new people to the conversation, which, as we learned, are very impressionable, and distracting them from the actionable intelligence that is verifiable and available. He is very problematic in the community, and I will fight him tooth and nail at this point because he should not be discussing Antarctica. He is a tourist to a place that I lived. That would be like somebody visiting your house for one day and then going around and pontificating to the world about what your house is like, but you know they're wrong. I know Brad Olson is wrong. I know Brad Olson is pumping unsubstantiated, speculative information that is antiquated. And when he says he's doing research, that means he read somebody else's book and doesn't like putting a footnote in and giving them credit. Oh, there's been Nazis in Antarctica? Thanks, Brad. Appreciate it. Amazing intel. Why are we prioritizing that conversation over, hey, there's been billions of dollars spent on technology that are operating nefariously by factions without oversight on this planet, up to and including mind control and weather modification. Which information should we be prioritizing now? How come that person gets sent all over the country to every event all over the place? Who is funding this person's flights? Who's paying for his hotels? He says he's not rich. Well, if he's paying for it all, he's doing better than I am. And if he's not paying for it all, who has decided he's worthy of the funding? These are questions everybody should be asking. Who is Brad Olson? Who does he operate for? Who buys his books? Does the CIA send a truck every year and say, hey, we just bought all the books, so you're funded? Oh, because that's also how they do these things. How do you manage to put someone in the front of the community and cover for the operation? One would be a publishing company, because you can then just simply make a bulk purchase, and now you've funded that operative for the year.
Have you two been at events, the 5D events together?
I have met Brad multiple times.
Okay.
Yeah, he was there at the first event.
So absolutely. He's been embedded in the 5D circle basically since the beginning as well, then.
Since
is that where he started off?
I don't know that that's where he started off necessarily. I don't want to speak out of turn. Okay. That's where I met him, and he seems to continue to engage in that circle, and every other circle. I mean, Brad is one of the most endeared personas in the disclosure community, and every single person talks about how nice he is, which he was completely nice to me. until I suggested that he was pumping crap information, and then I saw a different version of him, so I then proceeded to engage him differently than I had before.
Yeah, I've met him once or twice. He was nice to me too, but again, I mean, there was nothing contentious coming up at that point, so.
Yeah, and I think
Okay.
that's how these folks are expected to operate tactically in these communities. Is they're obliged to play the nice role, so they can gather information, push people in different directions. You know, it just is what it is. You know, these folks like Brad, like Dr. Michael Sala, Elena Denon. There's a whole bunch of people that, for starters, have never been to Antarctica, have no idea how things work there, and then put forth what they're calling whistleblowers. So similarly to James Rink, right? James Rink got fooled by people that were pretending to be associated to something. How could Dr. Sala, Linda Moulton, how could they even possibly have the life experience to vet if someone has been to Antarctica? They weren't there. They wouldn't know when someone's lying to them.
Yeah.
To me, it's very easy because I lived there.
Yeah.
So when people start pumping BS, to me, I know it's BS.
Yeah.
You know, Elena Denon was pushing out for a while once that she had a whistleblower. Some dude wrote her an email, signed it Frank, right? Anyone could write an email and make any suggestion. So this person was claiming that there was massive military operations going through McMurdo Station in the winter time in Antarctica. I knew this to be crap because the weather doesn't tolerate such activities. That's just Mother Nature giving a hearty go fuck yourself. Your planes ain't going to fly. Nothing's going to work. So I knew this to be BS. I started engaging Elena Denon and some of the folks in her community to try to get more information to find out, you know, why are you pumping this BS? How, you know, if there was all this activity going on, there'd be pictures and video. And this is one of the things that I get from people all the time. They go, well, you're not allowed to have cameras and take pictures and video in Antarctica. That's lies spread by people that have never been there. I was there. I had a camera on me 24/7. Everyone had a camera on them 24/7. If there was any movement of military activity in mass, as suggested, everyone would have pictures and video, and the internet would be full of it. It's not like nobody goes to Antarctica, McMurdo Station, Palmer Station, South Pole Station. People go there every year and take pictures and video and put them all over the internet, and that proves I'm correct. People have cameras and do document what they see. Do they have issues interpreting it? Absolutely, because everybody's experiences levels are different. But in the disclosure community, we have a bunch of people trying to commandeer the conversation on Antarctica and working together to claim there's no cameras allowed, so my whistleblower's legit. There's no way to vet them, so my whistleblower's legit. Mm-hmm. How about the supposed researchers in this topic? When a whistleblower comes to them and says, I'm from Antarctica, how come they don't reach out to me and say, Eric, can you help me vet this person? Wouldn't I have some expertise on the topic that would be valuable to them? Mm-hmm. Why is it when I say their whistleblowers full of crap, do they simply get angry with me? That, to me, is extremely peculiar.
It is. And it's also important to note here that there can be, I've called it, I actually have a lyric in a song that I'm working on, looking down on the third dimension. It's like these people get away with whatever they want to claim about Antarctica because they're claiming that it's happening in a time bubble, an alternate reality, a psychic space. And who am I to say that all of that is false? I can't say that. But what I can say is the things that can be verifiably proven to have happened in 3D deserve to be looked at.
Yeah.
Long before and foundationally before all of this other stuff.
Right.
And another thing that I found pretty disturbing, Marina Seren was being pushed in the Linda Moulton Howe sphere for a while, and I don't want to name who posted this. Someone in the disclosure community posted a photo of her in an SS uniform that had apparently been taken off of her some personal profile that, you know, it's OnlyFans, I guess, is the story that I heard. I want to make it very clear right now.
That's not profiteering.
Well, I want to make it very clear. I'm not trying to put down Marina. What I saw here was a very young, impressionable, beautiful girl being manipulated horrendously. I think is what happened. And they were both trying to put her on a pedestal and make her the face of disclosure, but also horrifically humiliate her at the same time by taking advantage of her being impressionable.
Well,
I know you went after that because there is a problem here. There's a problem here that you were exposing, and it needed to be exposed. I think you were a little harsh with Marina, but she is an adult.
Oh my God, I wanted to be so much more harsh.
Well, and that's where it's all kind.
Not for nothing. I felt for somebody that was such a steadfast supporter of Nazism and fascism, I felt I was actually being extremely kind.
Yeah.
Because I was taxed in that interview with her, which is available on my website, folks. If you want to, the proof is in the pudding. I had, I don't know, that like a 3-hour dialogue with her where she literally was saying, Sieg Heil, fuck America, I'm a Nazi. This was stuff coming out of her mouth by her choice. Right? All the hours long. When I say taxing, it was just, I just wanted the conversation to end. But I couldn't let it end. I just kept giving her more rope. And she kept continually hanging herself by putting herself on the pedestal as a self-titled, Nazi-loving, American-hating, Sieg Heil-wielding lunatic.
Whoa, wow, really?
That's what's available. And this is what I'm saying. Like, people want to defend certain people. And I would say they're not defendable. Marina Seren dug her grave as far as I'm concerned. And if she wants to call herself a Nazi, then I would say I could have treated her a hell of a lot worse.
It took me a minute to realize who you're talking about, but now I know. I know who you're talking about now. Yeah, it was funny. Honestly, I thought they were going to hook
up. That's fair. And I mean, when you're an adult, you're responsible for the things that come out of your mouth. But I guess the point that I'm trying to make here is I wonder what sort of grooming may have happened behind the scenes leading up to that.
Oh, totally fair question. Yeah, what brought her to that position in life? We protect other children from going down that road, I think is a very admirable angle of discussion. But to me, she is proof that there's a problem in the disclosure commodities community, because here we have a young woman who is happy to make all of the statements that she made. And you can call me a male chauvinist. I don't care what words you want to throw at me right now. I feel the only reason that she's in the conversation is because she's pretty, which is how life works sometimes too.
Yeah.
If she was as round as she was tall, I do not think people would be interviewing her.
How tall is she?
I don't know, but usually that ratio. It was a ratio thing.
So
Yeah.
Oh my God.
See, there we go. Okay.
All right. I definitely had some more specific questions too. Are we good on time? I don't know how.
I'm great on time. I got all the time in the world for you too.
Okay. Any other thoughts on those things before we kind of change directions?
Nope, I'm good.
I am.
Okay.
But I'll tell you what, though, if I could just, I'm gonna dip off camera to go use the men's room and top
Yeah.
off my coffee.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I don't want this to end, so I want to be.
Oh,
I'll
okay.
be. I'll be right back.
Okay. May I ask what what post did I not see? What was it, like a provocative, like what did I miss?
Oh, I'll tell you who posted it. You know who this person is. And I believe that they were just coming from a standpoint of, hey, you need to know that Marina Seren is dressing like a Nazi.
Oh, okay. So she was dressed like a Nazi. That's what I was
She
asking. I
was
don't
in
care
like a
about the.
full-on SS uniform.
That's right. I do
Yeah.
remember that. I do remember that. Yes, 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 yes. Okay, okay. It's so weird. It's like I see like confrontation and immediately I'm like,
Yeah.
no,
Well, and that's dangerous to our community too,
I
because
know.
you don't want the public thinking that secret space program experiencers are Nazis.
Yeah, no, 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 no.
You know, because
Yeah.
that's not true. Or I mean, maybe it is true for some of them, but that's I mean, most of the people that have the secret space program, MK Ultra, bent toward exposing truth are actually very against that. So, you know, because that's where MK Ultra originated.
Okay.
Okay, so with more of my questions, Eric, I think this was in your Heidi Pop interview, but you were talking about how several times when you were in Alaska, people came to take video of you. And then they claim that they were doing documentaries and stuff, and then you never saw anything of it afterward.
Yeah, I
Um,
think.
can you say who these people were or what
Yeah, one of
happened to
them
your
was
footage?
a gentleman by the name of Louis Mole, who was operating with a film production company out of New York. He had a British accent, and my suggestion would be is that I believe a lot of these factions, these information grabbing groups, are foreign nationals operating as television production companies. It's just that simple. So in that capacity, I'm a leader of a militia in the state of Alaska. So the idea at that time was that they wanted to come up and film the activities of the Alaska militia for AMC, which is a big channel. And long story short, they never delivered. They came up, they did a lot of information gathering, is the way I would look at it. It
Wow.
wasn't really television production. And things just kept getting more and more peculiar, right? I kept getting contacted by the production company. Louis Mole was my point of contact. And they were, how do I put it? They were looking for more and more information to the tune of it got so weird because they kept saying, production's getting delayed and all the stuff that they said that they were going to deliver on, they weren't delivering on. And I was pressing them and they kept coming back with like, well, if you can do this one more thing for us, like, going through loops and conditioning basically. And it got to the point where I was asked to take my cell phone and go through my residence. And they wanted me to stand in the living room and say, "Hello, my name is Eric Hecker, and this is my living room where I think militia thoughts." And hi, then go to the kitchen. And if you can go to the kitchen and say, "Oh, this is the kitchen where I hold militia meet," and then the production company wants you to go to every room in your house with your phone and make a statement about. And I said, Louis, so what you're telling me is that
You want footage of the inside of my home?
Yeah.
you want GPS coordinates of every single inch of my house so the door kickers can come soon, right?
Oh, did you tell him? Is that what
Yeah,
you
I said
said?
this. I
You
said
did?
this is
Of
this is
course you did.
we've now crossed the line of complete ridiculousness, and I see that this is not a legitimate production.
Right.
You're trying to set me up for some sort of easy arrest on some sort of charges that you've yet to be able to manufacture,
Wow.
because everything I'm doing is on the up and up. But what I'm
Right.
certainly not going to do is provide you a digital map of my home. I'm going to make it a bit more complex for you.
Wow.
and
That's
and
crazy.
that was the end of my association with Louis Mole. and appropriate name, right?
It's so sad. I would have probably been like, "Oh, okay." I didn't even think about it until like Alyssa, till one of y'all said it. I was like, "Oh my god, yeah."
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, they're just
so glad I've got new friends because it'll raise my awareness.
And this is quite a few years ago when people probably would have accused me for being crazy, thinking that a phone had that capacity. But obviously, we now know that these things would be within inches. And yeah, they could have set up a nice little diagram of my property, and figured out, we'll throw a flashbang grenade in this window, tackle them over here, and
yeah. Wow. Yeah.
So that was one company. Then there was Wild Dreams Films, I believe, was the group that I went to Ketchikan, Alaska, to do the Alaskan Triangle show, which again, foreign company. This is out of the UK, makes the show called the Alaska Triangle. I was in season 2. Episode 9 of that one, where they asked me to go out to Ketchikan, Alaska, to investigate reports of USOs, unidentified submerged objects. This is the only one that actually went to air, but interestingly, was they sent me out to locate USOs. They rented a boat. They had a camera crew. We went out and I searched the waters, and certainly like fishing, right? I had to go from spot to spot to spot, and all right, I don't find anything here, I'm not finding anything there, but eventually I hit the target. We recorded everything. Everybody was all cheers and congratulations. We accomplished the mission. We recorded so much footage of mission accomplished. That show went to air, and the only film that they showed of me on the water was me saying, "Can't find anything here." Can't find anything here.
Oh my god.
They literally edited out the whole point of me being there. Wow. So this is, again, my experience is disclosure community is about hiding the truth and masking it with unsubstantiated speculation. It is rampant in the community. The other documentary that never hit air, I always want to say the Smothers Brothers, the Cousins Brothers, Third Phase of the Moon, interviewed me when I went to Washington, D.C.
Ruh-roh. I want to hear.
I have been in contact with them now ever since then.
Okay.
And I was told by their red-headed honeypot that, well, they don't think that it's necessarily that pertinent of information anymore.
What? Yours?
My information is no longer pertinent. I spoke to her at Contact in the Desert. I was very amicable, but I inquired. I said, because she was present for the recording that they did of me in Washington, D.C. Unlike everybody else at that event, where she was apparently sent to hang all camera, I happened to be with a female former coworker from the South Pole Station who is a savagely powerful woman, which apparently kept the red-headed honeypot at bay with great ease.
Nice.
Yeah. So in that capacity, I engaged said red-headed honeypot at Contact in the Desert and said, "How come your production crew hasn't put the information out?" And she looked me square in the face and she said, "Well, they don't think it's pertinent anymore." And I went, "Oh, that's very interesting." And we just left it at that. Mm-hmm. But so I keep hearing, right? Tell me she's not a red-headed honeypot. Give me a break. She goes to every event and hangs all over every guy until they agree to get recorded.
Okay, I don't know her.
That's these are my observations.
Yes. I appreciate respect your observations.
Chastity kept making me giggle, but I was also imagining like a children's disclosure book called Red-Headed Honeypot or something.
Yeah.
That phrase sounds like.
Yeah.
It sounds like that.
Oh, that is so doable. Like I mean, there's all kinds of fairy tales where you have to beware the big bad wolf, and there's a moral to the story. right? So we can have, beware the redheaded honeypot.
Oh.
Oh my God.
Oh man. So again, I mean, are these people starting out with good intentions and then it's shifting, or are they already, or I don't know. I haven't been in
Here's the way I look at it,
long.
right? I went to Washington, D.C. to testify in front of the Senate Intelligence Committee and Arrow.
That's awesome.
The Cousins brothers requested to interview me in June of 2023 in regards to that topic. My question, and everybody else should be asking, is why are they sitting on this apparently pertinent information from June of 2023 for so long?
Mm.
Are they not interested in disseminating the truth? What's going on? What's the holdup?
Hmm.
Do they lack the expertise, professionalism, and desire to pump the truth? What's the holdup?
Interesting.
Have
Yeah.
you gotten any indication of how your testimony is being used? Do you know how that's being followed up or where it's being applied?
Since then, no. But what I can say was at the closing of my testimony, I was told that they appreciated me sharing the information and that my testimony was going to be expedited to Congress immediately.
Mm.
Is there any possibility that this has to do with the recent Raytheon lawsuit? Did you read that?
Oh, I don't know about a Raytheon lawsuit, but I was really, really, really super stoked that almost immediately after I gave my testimony in Washington, D.C., Raytheon changed their name to RTX. I was fucking overjoyed. I cannot tell you how much animosity I have towards Raytheon. They are the devil incarnate in corporate form. People do not understand what is going on in this world. Raytheon is a company that makes billions of dollars a year off of killing people. That's their business model.
Okay. Well, I'm going to go ahead and just ask it since we all know, and I should know because I'm in this community. But for real, what's Raytheon exactly? I know you just said that.
Raytheon makes weapon systems and
Okay.
targeting systems. That's what they do.
Okay.
If you want to kill someone on this planet, you check with Raytheon for the most cost-effective way to do it.
So that's like where the voice to skull and all that is derived from. I mean,
they've typically made their money off of conventional weapons and targeting systems.
Okay.
But I don't doubt that it's now moved on to larger situations like the ice cube neutrino detector at South Pole Station, directed energy weapons that are undisclosed and discussed. But this is, again, why I'm coming to the community and challenging people to go in the direction of brass tacks reality, to find out what is really going on for we the people of this planet. Because we're being... there's a muddying of the waters. The truth community is allowing too much bullshit into the river of truth, and therefore we can't get clarity on what's really going on and what needs to be prioritized so that we the people are no longer in the crossfire of these highly technologically advanced weapons, because the battlefield has changed. It's no longer where we send troops off in the distance and the battlefield is over there and veterans return home with bullet holes and missing limbs. The weapons of war have changed.
Yeah.
The walking wounded now have invisible wounds.
Yeah.
And the battlefield is all around us. And we, the people, are suffering because we are unaware that we're surrounded by walking wounded. We're unaware of the weapons of modern day warfare and what companies like motherfucking Raytheon are up to. And their cohorts in these profiteering industries that are making trillions of dollars off of killing human beings. I mean, that's the business model when you talk about war.
Right.
If you're a military industrial complex contractor, you make money off of killing human beings. I mean, that's the least common denominator reality here. So what do we the people do to slow the roll of the profits of people that make weapons? I mean, these are things that we need to prioritize. Yes, we can certainly bring this right back full circle to the UFO disclosure community. And the problem is that all of these technologies have been around for a while. Certainly, UFOs are real, but it's not what the focal point right now isn't. We need to know about what types of aliens are out there so that we can all smile and realize we're not alone in the universe. Well,
Right.
cool. Get over it. We're not alone in the universe. That's an easy thing to understand. The problem we, the people of this planet, have is that they've been reverse engineering technologies, hiding it from we, the people,
Yep.
operating it under many different factions without oversight. These factions are at war with each other right now, and we the people are caught in the crossfire. And
Mhm.
folks like me that are trying to bring this truth to the table so that we the people can no longer be surrounded by walking wounded are the ones that are being laughed at, ostracized, made
Mm.
fun of by people that are apparently operating for those without oversight and are just passing on speculative bullshit to muddy the waters of truth so that we the people are just still caught in the crossfire. And this has to stop, and we need people with boldness to step up and figuratively start punching the noses of the bullshit artists,
Ooh,
because somebody has to fucking do it.
who's got a mic?
Yeah.
Can we drop it?
I'm
Get
just
it,
sipping my
Eric.
coffee now.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
And time really is of the essence here, because part of your testimony is the fact that they're about to make the ice cube neutrino detector 10 times larger.
Yep.
When it
Yeah.
is already capable of creating earthquakes, probably tsunamis, a directed energy weapon, you can direct the energy wherever you want. So you can inflame any sort of natural earth process. Like you said, on a fault line, an earthquake will already occur there naturally, but if you direct energy at it, you can create an earthquake. And a lot of the general population thinks that this is crazy science fiction, conspiracy theory. Oh, they are controlling the weather, and they laugh at you, but it's like, no, people, wake the fuck up right now, because it's already happening, and it's going to get a lot worse if we don't stand up for ourselves.
Yeah, people
Because
need to
they
stop
don't give a
thinking of,
shit about us. They want to take us out so they have more space and they can go set up their mansions wherever the hell they want. They'll just start a fire, start an earthquake, send a hurricane.
we
They
the
don't
people need to
care.
stop thinking of the term they as singular, as if it's
Yeah.
one unified group. There are so many theys in the mix, and it's not actually weather control, it's manipulation and modification. And all of these factions are at each other's throats trying to manipulate for their own advantage. And again, these are just modern weapons, and we the people are caught in the crossfire. That's all that's going on right now.
Yep. Yeah, I think
There's
more and more.
different there's different corporate interests that are willing to wield these weapons, like what we saw in North Carolina. I do not believe the U.S. federal government and the military manipulated the weather to get the poor people out of the area that's apparently a rich mining source. I believe there's a corporate interest that has availability to the technology and simply invested in getting the poor people off the real estate they wanted. So I think there's all it's really disgusting. But this is why I say for years now I've been bringing information to the community that's not good news.
I know.
I get that, but it's because we
But
need
you
to
gotta-
do something about it. It would be similar to like if I knocked on your door and I was like, "Hey, listen, I have every reason to believe that your child's being molested by someone." That's not good news.
No,
but if
but
you're the parent, you need to hear that and do something. So
right.
basically, I feel like we, the people of this planet, ever since I've figured out what was going on at the South Pole Station, from that point until now, we have been losing the battle Do I believe that means we're going to lose the war? No, I am not hopeless. If it was hopeless, I would be chilling out somewhere, drinking margaritas on a beach and enjoying the rest of my life. If it was hopeless, it is not hopeless. We can do something about it if we can all unite. And like Alyssa keeps saying, if we could prioritize where we, the people, put our energy into making the world better, and if we no longer allow the misinformationists and disinformationists to dissipate our energy, then we will accomplish more. One of the things that I learned through starting a militia and realizing how the government works against any operation that they don't support, okay? Here's what they send at you. They send moles, Louis Mole. they send provocateurs, which are people that try to redirect your energy into doing something wrong so that you get wiped out that way. And then the most powerful of the three forces they send in your direction is what's called a dissipator. And they show up as friends. And what they try to do is redirect your energy. Oh, and wow. I would suggest that if people pay attention to the disclosure commodities community, you will see that it is full from top to bottom with dissipators. People that will suggest that there's nothing else that we can do. There's nothing we can do. I mean, look at all these people that have been disclosing the truth for years. What if they told us we can do with their truth? I would say that their whole truth is to dissipate the activity of we the people into sitting on our couches and waiting for their next profitable piece of information to sell us, which will certainly, again, not come with any suggested activity. Right thought, not followed immediately by right action, is useless. The whole point of thinking a right thought is to have a right action. So I would suggest that right action is what the community needs. And if the information that they are gathering does not fill their head with ideas of what the next right thing for that person to choose to do as an individual, not what someone tells you to do. That's an issue too, is everybody thinks, oh, well, tell us what to do. First thing I would tell you is stop doing what people tell you to do. Start making up your own mind. Do whatever you think is right as an individual and do it immediately. Become decisive for righteous action. If you are in error with your newfound direction, you will figure it out quickly because you made a decision and you acted upon it. If you get the result that you are looking for, fantastic. Continue to move forwards and gain ground. If it didn't work out the way that you planned, make a new decision quickly.
I like
do whatever you think is right.
Yeah.
Do it quickly and do it with other people, and stop allowing our energy to be dissipated by bullshit artists, profiteers, frauds, disinformationists, and misinformationists. If they cannot suggest the value of their information and what we can do about it, I mean, South Pole Station, I've presented to the world that there's a nefarious technology down there. People, what can we do about it? Invade, shut it down.
Yeah, awareness. First up is awareness.
That's an activity that I could say would be of value to humanity. And then everybody would say, well, it's next to impossible to get there, and how are we going to do that? And then I would say, well, that's why they put it there.
Yeah.
It just adds support to the value of the information that I provided. Of course, it's next to impossible to get to the South Pole Station and shut down this horrible technology. But that's more the reason why we need to do it, and why I went to Washington, D.C. to let them know that, hey, maybe you guys have the forces that could do this.
Heck yeah. I love that. That's awesome. That's awesome, because it's kind of like people telling me that I can't put a dent in Big Pharma or bring the fucker down. Bullshit. Like, if you get enough people together and rally enough people and get enough people mad, bullshit. Yes, you can. And anyway, so I won't get into all that, but I think this is a good time to, if there's anything else you want, I'm going to start, if y'all are okay, I'm going to start wrapping it up. I have to go to the bathroom and take my mom to the doctor. Oh God, I got to take my mom to the doctor. Well, we're not going to go inside, so that's going to be okay. But anyways,
Yeah, no worries. I just want to end really quickly with I guess I'll put this in the comments whenever we post this publicly, but I would like people to read about this Raytheon lawsuit. And part of the reason I was curious if this had anything to do with what's going on in Antarctica is that it was based off of admissions and court documents filed between 2012 in 2016. And I think Eric said that the Christchurch earthquakes were February 2011, right? That's when the ice cube neutrino detector was first deployed. So that's kind of interesting timing there.
Wow.
Alyssa, what's the long and short of the accusations in this trial?
So, Raytheon Company to pay over $950 million in connection with defective pricing, foreign bribery, and export control schemes.
I did see that.
Yeah.
I did see that one. Okay. So, yeah, I mean, if that is not just indicative of how they operate.
Yeah, Raytheon admitted to engaging in 2 separate schemes to defraud the Department of Defense in connection with the provision of defense articles and services, including Patriot missile systems and a radar system. But they basically they supplied documents that were completely fraudulent about the funds that they needed for these weapons. And they were given essentially twice as much as they needed. So it's like, where did the rest of that money go?
Oh, shit.
What did they use it for?
Right. Wow.
Yep.
And yeah, those are the kinds of questions that we need to start asking.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Good find. And yeah, everybody should look into that because, again, what Alyssa brings up is very indicative of the problems that we have with companies like Raytheon on this planet. Just straight up. A military industrial contractor convicted of fraud.
Right.
I mean, for profit, killing people for profits, defrauding people
Are
for
you
more
gonna
profits.
Put that in the chat, or do you know how to do that, or no?
I don't. I think I just put it in our private chat, but I want it to be available to other people too.
Well, I can post it on my. I mean, I can post it too on my page.
Okay.
And folks, don't worry. I'm sure that Raytheon is only military industrial contractor that would defraud the people.
Shit.
Everyone else is probably innocent, not worthy of investigation, nothing to see here.
Oh, no. It's all coming down. We're all bringing it all down. It's all coming down. I think we're just in the beginning stages of it all. So I think it's going to get chaotic before it gets better, but that's all right. I am ready for it. So anything else before we wrap it up, guys? Thanks for coming on. I appreciate it. This was a good conversation. I think it was, what'd you say? Random us three getting together. People are like, what the fuck? I love it.
Yeah, I would just like to thank both of you for reaching out, especially Alyssa. I really appreciate your support, like just kind of almost coming out of left field in my world with what I was going through, and you observed, and I really appreciate you engaging and throwing your 2 cents in because it does have value. And Chastity, I appreciate the angle that you've come from too. You're a real human being. We've had real engagements. None of us agree on anything and everything because that's how reality works.
That's right.
I don't have to agree with everything that both of you say to have an appreciation for the things that we do have common ground on. I believe that we, the people, will gain the most ground if we stop bickering about the stuff that makes us different and we just work together on the stuff that we do agree upon, because the differences are that dissipation energy. We can be lost for eons in bickering about things we disagree on, but it sounds to me like you two ladies are champions for the truth, for the betterment of humanity, and I would rather just simply move forwards together on trying to fight the disinformation and misinformation with two ladies like yourself, because I appreciate that you see the value to this conversation. So thank you both.
Let's fucking go. Let's go. You got to throw that one in there. Thank you guys. I appreciate anything else, Alyssa. I'm good. I'm literally, if I sneezed right now, I'd probably tinkle.
Yeah, I think just there's going to have to, there's going to have to be a reshuffling of the disclosure community. And I'm younger, I'm 31 years old, but I mean, things are going to change, and new factions will form that are more reflective of liberating Earth, because that's what everybody says the disclosure community is about, but not everybody's acting that way.
I agree.
And I do have a more specific question about the ice cube neutrino detector, but we'll just wait on that. I'm curious why you think that the neutrino impacts can't be harnessed for energy, because that was one of the Q&A questions in the secret energies in energy weapons in Antarctica.
It's my understanding they it's not necessarily a energy releasing interaction.
How could it? Is that an endothermic or exothermic reaction when the neutrino would hit the water molecule and there would be light and heat released from that, right? And then that made me wonder, what are the cables
I've
made
never
of?
heard I've never heard them say that heat was released. I've basically heard that when a neutrino impacts the nucleus of the ice molecule, both the neutrino and the ice molecule are negated. There's a flash of blue light, Cherenkov radiation, and a new molecule is created titled a muon.
What?
And I have no reason, right? And I have no reason to believe that there is any way to harness what you're calling energy from that reaction. I think it's just not pertinent to the activity going on. I do not believe contemporarily that energy is actually a problem. I believe that base has already been covered for decades, and there are exotic ways of making energy that the public does not benefit from. And I gather that that's probably what's powering the ice cube neutrino detector, so that in and of itself, there's no reason for us to need it to make energy. That's not in its primary role, secondary role, tertiary role. It's doing plenty of nefarious things. Power production doesn't seem to be on its multifaceted capacities list.
Yeah, it's a very specific question. I was just kind of
fair question. Yeah,
but yeah, the ability to sustain a green laser for minutes on end shooting off into space, that is a huge amount of energy. So
right,
basically,
and that's a different.
I don't want
Cassie that's a different system.
Oh, that's okay. I don't want to take away from any questions you have, Alyssa.
I'm not gonna lie. It would be great for the video if Chastity peed herself.
I think maybe we'll just have to do this again. Well, maybe we'll just have to do this again.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I think
I would love to. I would love to engage this conversation with you two again. It was a pleasure chatting, and I appreciate that we all come from different angles on this. I think it's a good example to the community to show that people with differences of opinion can still get along.
I love it. Yeah, I love it, and I love you guys. So
Redheaded Honeypot is coming out next year.
I think that's our next collaboration.
That's why
Redheaded Honeypot.
Right? I appreciate that so much. So, well, if you guys were here in the chat, I really appreciate it. Thank you so much, and we'll definitely get together and make it happen again, really sooner rather than later. Just let me know. But y'all have a wonderful rest of your day, and we'll all get together soon. Okay.
Absolutely. Have a great day, ladies.
Bye, guys.